Okay, good morning. This is the second part of our lesson 3 equilibrium. Last time I've discussed with you the first topic on equilibrium, that is free body diagrams. This is the very first step in the analysis of equilibrium of rigid bodies. You have to draw first your free body diagrams, and I've also discussed with you the steps for the construction of free body diagrams, as you can see there in your screens. Now, this time, I'm going to discuss with you the main topic on equilibrium. Um, the equations you see there in your screen are, again, what we call the static equations. We have three static equations: the summation of forces on the x-axis, summation of forces on the y-axis, and the summation of moments. So there are different categories of equilibrium. We have the category 1, wherein this is the equilibrium of collinear forces. As discussed during the first lesson, when we say collinear forces, the forces lie on the same line. So kapag collinear forces, ang usually na ginagamit natin ay isang equation, either summation of forces along x-axis or summation of forces along the y-axis. Depende na lang kung aling axis siya, aling axis nandun yung mga forces. For category 2, we have the equilibrium of forces which lie in a plane and are concurrent at a point O. So kapag sinabi natin concurrent ay category 2 equilibrium, we are dealing with concurrent forces, and again, as discussed during our first discussion, pag sinabing concurrent forces, different directions ang ating mga forces but they intersect at the same point. So kapag concurrent ay pag category 2, we usually use the two static equations, summation of forces along x-axis and summation of forces along the y-axis. Kapag category 3 naman, we are dealing with the equilibrium of parallel forces. Pag sinabi natin parallel forces, as you can see there in your screen, parallel, either they lie on x-axis or the y-axis, depende kung ano yung direction. And we are using two of the static equations. We have summation of forces along the x-axis and summation of moments. Kapag namang category 4, this is the equilibrium of general system. Dito na yung pag category 4 kasi combination na siya ng different forces. Meron kang makikita doon na parallel force, may concurrent forces, merong collinear forces, and meron din siyang moment. So kapag category 4 na siya, we are using the three static equations: summation of forces along the x-axis, summation of forces along the y-axis, and summation of moments. Let's discuss here first the two-force body. As you can see there in your screen, a two-force body is a body with two forces acting on it. In order for a two-force body to be in equilibrium, the two forces must add to zero. So there are only three possible ways that this can happen. First, the two forces must either share the same line of action, meaning they have the same magnitude and point away from each other, or they share the same line of action, have the same magnitude, and point towards each other, or both forces have zero magnitude. So when two forces have the same magnitude but act in diametrically opposite directions, we see that they are equal and opposite. When equal and opposite forces act on an object and they point towards each other, we see that the object is in a compression. When they point away from each other, the object is in tension. So kapag sinabi nating two-force body, as you can see there in the diagram, let's say itong illustration na to, there are two forces on it, and they yung kanilang mga arrows, they are in opposite direction. So kapag let's say kung ito ay 10 newtons at ito rin ay 10 newtons, di ba pag sa bottom dating duwa nga forces ag zero out, kasi the direction na dating nga arrow is opposite to the direction of this arrow, so ag zero out the forces. Now, as written here in this statement, when equal and opposite forces act on an object and they point towards each other, Yan, yung direction kasi ng arrow is they point towards each other. We call this compression. So itong object na to, this is under compression. The same with this one, this is under compression. Kapag naman yung arrow, it points away from each other, as you can see in this diagram. Itong diagrams na to. Yung arrows, kung mapapansin niyo, yung arrows, they are pointing away from each other. So this is under tension. Same with this diagram. They are under tension. Pero yung if the arrow is pointing towards each other, they are under compression. See the difference between tension and compression. Again, pag sinabing compression, yung arrow is pointing towards. Kapag namang tension, the arrow is pointing away from each other. Okay? So that is the difference between compression and tension. Do not be confused with these two directions of arrows. So let's have an illustrative problem to further understand two-force body. So here, Marines and airmen at Goodfellow Air Force Base are competing in a tug of war and have reached a stalemate. The Marines are pulling with a force of 1,500 pounds. How hard are the airmen pulling? What is the tension in the rope? So this is given in your follow-up work for the first topic in equilibrium. So if we're going to draw the free body diagram of this figure, ito. So dito si Marine, ito yung mga Marine, andito yung mga airmen. So if I'm going to draw the free body diagram of this situation, it will look like this. Tama? Be careful with the direction of your arrows. Sabi ko nga, ang i-assume lang natin is the support reactions. But kung titingnan mo yung situation, tapos obvious naman yung direction ng arrow, wag kayong mag-a-assume. So given that, this is the free body diagram of this illustration. That's the very first thing you have to do in the analysis of equilibrium of rigid bodies. So ang unknown sa problem na to, So in solving problems regarding equilibrium, here are the key concepts or approaches to solving problems. First, identify clearly the quantities which are known and unknown. So what are the given and what is the unknown? So ang given natin, we have here the Marines are pulling with a force of 1,500 pounds, and the unknown is the tension in the rope. Yan yung mga given and unknown sa problem na to. Second step, make an unambiguous choice of the body or system of connected bodies treated as a single body to be isolated and draw its complete free body diagram, labeling our external known and unknown but identifiable forces and couples which act on it. So sa step 2, agpili tayo iti system of connected bodies treated as a single body para makakuha tayo ng unknown. So dito sa free body diagram, I choose itong rope na to. Itong rope na to, that is my system. Right? Then step 3, choose a convenient set of reference axis, always using right-handed axis. So choose a convenient set of reference axis. So since yung aking rope ay along the x-axis or nasa horizontal siya, I'm going now, yan yung aking reference axis, DJ horizontal or the x-axis ko. So step 4, identify and state the applicable force and moment principles or equations. So iti step 4, since iti reference axis ko kat DJ horizontal or DJ na x-axis, usarok garod DJ static equation nga summation of forces along the x that is equal to 0. Okay, again, step 3, choose a convenient set of reference axis, and here may pinilik na reference axis ko kat x kasi naka-horizontal 0. Then step 4, identify and state the applicable force and moment principles or equations. So in here, I'm going to use summation of forces along the x-axis that is equal to 0. So dito yung makita yung to the right ay to the left ni M, to the right ni A. So naisulat ko dyan equation ko, negative ni M, positive ni A. Tama? And given mat ni M, therefore I can say that M is equal to A. So given GM, that is equal to 1,500 pounds, so A is also equal to 1,500 pounds. They are the same in magnitude but opposite in direction. So no pag-adam di ay dapat ag 0 di ay. Okay? Ngam, iti bibiro kad gamin na iti problem, haan nga ni M, haan nga ni A. Nung ti papabiro di problem, di tension i 0. So tapno maalak di tension 0, ag sublinak ijay step 2. Ag sublinak di step 2. And kung na di step 2, make an ambiguous choice of the body to be isolated. So tapno makaalaak iti tension i 0, ag drawing nak ti sabali nga free body diagram, and it will look like this. And what is this? Di ba no kung maikat ko ditoy, ada iti tension i 0, iso diay. G force coming from the marines, i-counteract the tension i 0. G force coming from the airmen, i-counteract the tension i 0. So given this free body diagram, maalak the value iti. Diba? Ta isugarot ti unknown the value iti. So again, step 3, choose an convenient set of reference axis. My reference axis is the x-axis. Step 4, identify and state the applicable force and moment or moment principles or equations. So I'm going to use summation of forces along the x-axis ulit. Now, no makita yung the forces along the x-axis, makita yung dyan, M is equal to T is equal to A. Right? Again, to maintain the equilibrium, the forces should be equal in magnitude but different in direction. So, ni M is to the left, tapos dito'y ni T to the right. Tama? Then, no mapan iji ayan iti airmen, ni T is to the left, ni A is to the right. Again, this is to maintain equilibrium. Therefore, I can say that T is the tension in the rope is equal to 1,500 pounds. So, dito ang ginamit ko lang na static equation is the summation of forces along the x-axis para makuha ko yung tension in the rope. To further understand the analysis of equilibrium of rigid bodies, let's have this example. For problem number 2, a 100 Newton weight W is supported by cable ABCD. There is a frictionless pulley at B and the hook is firmly attached to the cable at C. What is the magnitude and direction of force P required to hold the system in the position known? Again, itong figure na to, if you try to remember, ito rin yung binigay kong activity last week ata. So, to analyze the equilibrium of rigid body given this system, again, I'm going to follow these key concepts. First, identify clearly the quantities which are known and unknown. So, the given is the weight that is equal to 100 newtons. Yan yung weight dito sa may point C. Ito si 100 newtons. Then, yun lang ang given sa problem. The unknown is the magnitude and direction of force P. So, ito yung unknown. What would be the value of this? And kapag sinabing direction, yung value nung theta. Okay? That is step 1. Again, first, you have to identify clearly the quantities which are known and unknown. Second step, make an ambiguous choice of the body to be isolated and draw its complete free body diagram. So if I'm going to draw the free body diagram of this system, it will look like this. So dito kay may point B. Now again, be careful in drawing your free body diagram. you have to show all the possible forces acting on that certain object. So dito sa my free body diagram, hindi po ako nag-assume ng mga directions. As I told you before, ang i-assume lang natin na direction ay yung support reactions. But for other forces na, do not ever assume it. So you have to analyze properly the whole system. Now, bakit ganito yung mga naging direction ko? Dito kay may point B, nandito yung pulley. Then given naman na yung direction ni P, ito siya, to away from the point B, then yung theta. Si point A, bakit siya tension? Tension si point A kasi di ba di discussion tayo garo di previous slide. No DJ arrow is pointing away, that is tension. Okay? But if the arrow is pointing towards the point, that is under compression. So, bakit, kung mapapansin ninyo, apay nga daga di arrows ko, under tension da amin. Now, no kitaan nyo dito system, dito buo nga dito i-analyze tayo niya. Nadagsan di W, nadagsan di 100 newtons. Now, tapnohaan nga matingnag dito nga W to maintain the equilibrium of this. Diba, dapat dito CD, iguyod na dito W. Now, the term nga iguyod, that is pull, and no, once you pull, diba, you are pointing away from the point. So, no kunam iguyod mo, that is under tension. Alright? Kastamot lang ni BC, dito rope ni BC. Tapnohaan nga matinag dito nga W, kasi diba ti weight nga kat always pointing downwards. Do not forget that kapag weight, it is always pointing downwards. Now, tapnohaan nga matinag ni W, kat dito CD, iguyod na ni W, dito BC, tulungan na ni CD, iso nga dapat di direction matlang ni BC, away. Guyudan na matlang ni W. Ni BC kan ni CD, tinulong dayta nga duwa, tapnohaan nga matinag dayta W. Iso nga di free body diagram ko, ito ayan iti dayta kasli ti itsura na. Nagets tayo? Okay? Basta ti itsura na di free body diagram. Again, kasli ti pa nag-drawing ti free body diagram. Haan nga di i-drawing mo manon di the whole system. Nukunan tayo nga free body diagram, dapat ti makita i-jay forces kundi direction iti forces. Nagkinaawatan tayo di pa nang alat ti free body diagram pa nang i-drawing. And kitak si in submit you idi last week regarding free body diagrams. Nagdrawing kayong in-drawing yung matlang DJ object situation ngayon ko. Again, iti pa nag-drawing iti free body diagram, iti makita i-jay forces kundi direction ti forces. Okay, so nalpas tayo dito free body diagram na dito nga part. Mapan tayo di free body diagram na dito point B. Now, naapat tayo kan ni point B. Diba dati BC manan ijay. No, dito ayan ni point C, ti direction na dito nga arrow kat away. No, mapan iso na dito point B. Di same lang nga di direction mo away from the point. Tapno no agsabat dito nga duwa nga arrows, ag zero out. Okay? So, no kasta garud, iti point B, di direction di arrow ko kat pakas jay, tapos di point P, data di direction ti arrows. To counteract the forces of these, dapat di direction ni AB, pakas jay. Tama? Tapno ikontraon na di BC kan ni P. Iso nga kasta ti itsura na di free body diagram, iti ayan ni point B. Okay? So kasta ti kompleto nga free body diagram na dito nga given. So no na-drawing tayo di free body diagram, pantayo di step. Then isolve tayo di angles, na makita yo adadagay jay angles. Masapol nga isolve tayo dagay jay angles, tapno no ag-solve tayo damdama malakaan tayo. So, nakitkitaan niyo dito diagram, unknown daytoy theta. Data ti unknown. So, isolve tayo ni alpha, beta, ni phi. So, isolve tayo. Tapno masolve ko ni alpha, that is equal to the tangent, inverse tangent of 40 over 20, that is equal to 63.4. Kasano ka naala, that is 63.4. Now, no, pansinan nyo, dati alpha nga dati, dijay, i-reset lang. So, pansinan nyo dati alpha, i-drawing nak na lang ti kasta. Now, drawing nak ti box. Sa pangarigan kasta. Diba dati ni alpha? Right? This is alpha. The opposite side of alpha is 40. The adjacent na 20. So, ti given, 40 kan 20. So, usarap di tangent. Diba naadal tayo i-J trigonometry? The tangent of alpha is equal to opposite over direction. The opposite is 40 and the adjacent is 20. No alam di inverse tangent na daytoy, iso data 63.4 degrees. Nagets tayo? Tatano alaok mat ni beta. Solve ko ni beta. Ni beta, iso daytoy nga angle. Napansinan nyo? Ditoy. So, napansinan nyo ditoy, diagram, daytoy ni beta. So, kasano nga naala daytoy 10 over 80. Diba, tiko na tayo ulit i-trigonometry. Tangent of beta is equal to opposite over adjacent. So, the opposite side of beta is this one. Dito nga side. Dito iti opposite ni beta. Mano data? 50 centimeters from D aging gana kan C, 40 centimeters ni A at to B. So, no kitkitan tayo ditoy, dito nga opposite ni beta, that is equal to 10. Kasano ka naala ni 10? 50 minus 40, that is equal to 10. Over adjacent. The adjacent side of beta is this 80 centimeters. That is over 80. Now, if you take the inverse of this one, maalayo ijay beta is equal to 7.13 degrees. Okay? Apan tayo tatakan ni theta. Kasanok nga naala jay 45 degrees nga theta. So, no kitan tayo ulit dito'y diagram from that horizontal line ay theta. Phi, sorry, ni phi pala. So, ito si phi. Again, if we're going to use tangent of phi, that is equal to opposite over adjacent. The opposite side of phi is 50. The adjacent side of this phi is 50 also. So, no alaan nyo the inverse tangent na daytoy, from more iji calculator you that phi is equal to 45 degrees. That is how I computed the angles angles alpha, beta, and phi. Again, kailangan nga isolve the gitang angles kasi kailangan isuna iji analysis ko ti equilibrium. Okay? This is not yet done. Again, ti unknown tayo dito is the magnitude of P and ti insolve tayo lang is alpha, beta, and phi. Okay? Again, that is the free body diagram. So, first, i-analyze ko pa lang man daytoy ayan ti banda ti C. Iti ayan ti weight nga 100 newtons. So i-isolate ko isu na. Then mapanak ijay step 3. Di ba ko na nag-step 3? Choose a convenient set of reference axis. So in here, my reference axis will be di ba discussion tayo tatay category of equilibrium. This is under concurrent forces. So kailangan giduwa nga static equations kailangan nga i-consider jay axis ko iti horizontal con vertical. So nukunan tayo nga horizontal, that is along the x-axis. Nukunan tayo nga vertical, that is along the y-axis. So dito i-consider kong axis jay x kan jay y, horizontal and vertical. Then step 4, identify and state the applicable force and moment principles or equations. Since connected tayo nga i-consider kung axis kat x kan y, so di duwa nga equations iti kasapulak summation of forces along the x, i-issue pa lang ti iyon unak. So along the x-axis, anya dagiti forces along the x-axis. Since naka-diagonal ni C kan ni D, adda nga adda iti x components na dahiti duwa nga forces. Tama? So alaok di x component ni C kan di x component ni D. Apay nga negative ni Cx, apay nga positive ni Dx. Jay x component dahiti C is pointing to the left, right? Jay x component ni D is pointing to the right. And our sign convention, no G force is to the left negative, no G force is to the right positive. Okay? So kasanok nga alam ni Cx, again lesson 2, the x component of a force that is equal to the force C multiplied by the cosine of your acute angle from the x-axis. Tama? DJ angle of inclination ni C isu ni beta. And take note, ni beta, it is measured from the x-axis. Okay? Isu data cosine beta. DJ mat D, iti angle of inclination na isu ni phi. Nagets apay nga ni C cosine beta is equal to D cosine phi. No i-transpose mo dito negative Cx, di ba balin nga positive? Tama, di C cosine beta is equal to D cosine phi. This na i-substitute tayo, na-solve tayo gaminan J value T beta kon J value T phi. Kadagi J handa nga malagip no anya inkastak ditoy. This is under algebra. Just a quick review lang. Kasano nga nagbati G C ijay. Tapno mabati ni C, di ba? That is C cosine of beta, which is equal to D cosine of phi. Kaya't ko nga mabati ni C. So, ikastak lang, i-divide ko dito iti cosine beta. I-divide ko mo't diay banger equation ti cosine beta. Ag-cancel out dito iso nga ti mabati langan sa equation ko. C is equal to D cosine of phi over cosine beta. Isu data. Nagets? Okay? So again, review your algebra no naulaw kayo dito inkastak ijay. This is imposible nga hanyo nga malagip data ka data ti pinaka first na topic you iti algebra. And so this is my equation 1. Inkastak lang dito apo. In-enter ko lang DJ cosine of 45 degrees. Divide it by cosine of 7.13. That is equal to 0.713. And that is D. Okay? That is my equation 1. Kas connected tayo, I'm going to consider two axes. So, usarap jay duwa nga static equations. This time, I'm going to use summation of forces along the y-axis. So, anya dagiti forces along the y-axis. Obviously, adda iti y component ni C, and my direction is upwards. Tama? I have also the y component of D, and the same the direction is upwards. Iso nga positive ni CY kani DY. And here the weight is downwards, so negative iso na jay. Kasanok nga naala ni CY, that is equal to C multiplied by sine beta. Again, the angle of inclination of C along the x-axis with respect to the x-axis is beta. And as for D, the angle of inclination is phi. Tiinkastak lang ditoy, in transpose ko daytoy W to the other side of the equation tapno agbalin nga positive. Okay? Then, since given ay na-solve tayo ni beta kun ni phi, tapos given mo ni W, that is equal to 100, ikasta tayo dito yun, tapos daytan J equation 2. Nangalaak daytoy 0.124 kundi 0.707. Sine of 7.13 is equal to 0.124. Okay? The sine ni 45, that is equal to 0.707. Right? So this is my equation 2. Now, in step 5, ko na nagamit ijay, match the number of independent equations with the number of unknowns in each problem. Unknown ni C, unknown ni D. Tama? There are two unknowns, therefore, I need two equations. So, be careful with this one. No duwa ti unknown mo, dapat duwa mo't lang ti equation mo. No talo ti unknown mo, dapat talo mo't lang ti equation mo. Again, iti problem nga dito iti isosolve tayo ni P. Nga masolve ko lang ni P, basta amok ni C, ni D, ni A, kas nakita tayo idya yan ti free body diagram. So, first thing, we have to solve first for the value of C and D. Now, using these two equations simultaneously, solve these two equations simultaneously, these are the values. C is equal to 89.5 newtons and D is equal to 125.7 newtons. Now, kasano ka naala dagiti nga values? Dagiti calculator nakat 991 ES. Simply, i-substitute mo ni C, dito equation 1, i-substitute mo dito C, dito'y, kasano DI, i-reset ko lang. So, tikas na tayo lang ijay. 0.124. Anya ti C? C is multiplied by, ti C tayo di equation 1 is 0.713 D. D. Tapos, plus D multiplied by sine of 45 degrees. That is equal to 100. Then, shift solve tayo. Error. So, katak ni D iti X. Again, take note, Gx dito ikat iso ni D niya. 2024. Check ko lang the equations ko. Baka mali ako. Then, shift solve. So, here, connected tayo ni X iso ni D. And na-solve ko nga ni D is equal to 125.7 newtons. Okay? Tapno ma-solve ko ni C, agsubliak ko na equation 1. That is 0.713 multiplied by, di answer ko ni D, 125.7. So, that is 125.7. That is equal to 89.62. 89.62. Nagets tayo di ay. Kadagi jay haan nga 991 ES ti cellphone na, ano san yung agmano-mano. So, by substitution, you can do that one tap na masolve yun ni C kan ni D. I hope this is clear on how I get I got the value of C and D. Again, we are not yet done with this problem since the unknown is P. So, nasolve tayo yung value ni C kan ni D. But i-consider ko tato yung free body diagram. Ito C. In-consider ko tayo na free body diagram. Dito ay ayan ni C. This time, I'm going to consider itong part na to kung nasaan C point B. Again, just a reminder ulit, it is stated in the problem, yung pulley doon sa may point B is a frictionless pulley. So, in every worded problem, you have to take note yung mga given doon. So, this time, nasolve tayo ni C, that is equal to 89.62, and I'm going to consider the free body diagram at point B. So, dito tayo, di step 3, diba, di step 2, step 1 is identify what are the given and the unknowns. Amo tayo di given and the unknown is amo tayo matan. Di step 2, you have to draw the free body diagram. Now then, step 3, you have to choose a convenient set of reference axis. Now, considering itong free body diagram at point B, since concurrent yung mga forces, so I have to choose my reference axis as the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay. Then, step 4, identify and state the applicable force and moment principles or equations. Since I'm going to consider the x and the y-axis, so ang kailangan kong equations dito ay yung summation of forces along the x and summation of forces along the y-axis. I'm going to consider first summation of forces along the x-axis, so that is equal to 0. So, again, naka-incline ni A, naka-incline ni C, kun ni P. So, adda iti x component na dagita. Since the x component of A is pointing towards left, so that is negative, same through with the Px. Cx is to the right, kaya positive. Now, so let's substitute the values. Tingkastak lang dito baka adto mas daaw. In transpose ko, dito negative ax, diba? No, once ka ma-transpose ito, balik nga positive. In transpose ko mat lang ni cx. Tapno, agbalik nga positive ni p, i-divide ko sa nati negative. Tapno, agbalik nga positive. No, naulaw kayo ijay, kasi tilatan ti aramidan nyo. Again, this is just a review for the sake of those who forgot their algebra. Tapno agbati iti one side the equation ni P, kasi isugaro ti berbero ko. Dahito negative Px, i-transpose ko iso na ijay, agbaling nga positive, iso nga Cx minus Ax ti mabati. Okay? No maulaw kayo latan, no kasano di pa ng transpose na, sublian nyo di algebrayo. Again, I'm not going to use my time reviewing you of your algebra, especially on transposing variables. So here, the Px is equal to P cosine theta. Again, itong theta na to, that is the angle of inclination of P with respect to the horizon or horizontal. Okay? And beta again, that is the angle of inclination ni C. Baka ato ti mas daaw, dahil mat beta kat dahil ting angle. Diba vertical angles karot kinaadal tayo niya di geometry. If this is beta, this is also equal to beta kasi nga vertical angles. And so again alpha, that is the angle of inclination of A. Na-solve tayon di value iti beta ken alpha. So, i-substitute tayo to di later. This is my equation 3. So, this time, I'm going to use summation of forces along the y-axis. Again, mayroon pong y component, si A, C, at saka si P. AY is positive, PY is negative, and CY is negative. Again, you have to take note of your directions. And the PY is equal to P sine of theta, AY is equal to A sine alpha, and CY is equal to C sine beta. Di ba kung na step 5 kami, match the number of independent equations with the number of unknowns in each problem. Nukit-kitaan nyo di equation 3 kan equation 4. Sige, saan tayo mga kitaan? Unknown ni P. Ito yung mismo nga birbiro kan tayo. Ni P, right? Nga maalak ni P, basta amok ni C. Given mo ni C, nasolve tayo ni C. And amok ni A. Ang ko nga amo yung value ni A. Amok ni beta, amok ni alpha. Ang kumat lang amo ni theta. So, masolve ko dito yung P cosine theta no amok ni A. So, makita yun ito yung 1, 2, 3 unknowns. Right? Duwa lang ta equation ko. Equation 3 kan equation 4. Haan ko mabalin nga usaran ni equation 1 kan equation 2. Kasi ni equation 1 kan equation 2, that is based from your free body diagram considering jay point C. Titigamin, i-consider tayo ni point B. Di ayan iti pulley. So, anyagar tikas tayo tap na masatisfy tayo dito number 5. Di ba kung nagarot tatay, no mano ti unknowns, dapat isumot lang ti number ti equations. Ulitin tayo, ti unknown tayo dito ni P kan ni A. Tama? Kasi given mo ito ni C. Haan tayong matlang nga amo ni theta. Haan tayong amo ni theta. So, there are 3 unknowns, pero dalawa lang yung equations natin. We cannot satisfy step 5. But again, di ko nagarot tatay, basaan tayo nga nalaing jay problem. Di ba nasiputan nyo ko na word jay problem tatay? There is a frictionless pulley at B. Now, no kunan tayo gaming ng frictionless pulley. Di ba dito ayan ti location ti frictionless pulley kan point B. No kunan tayo gaming ng frictionless pulley. G-tension in J-rope, it does not change. So, what do I mean by that? Kahit nagarod nga sa uwan, since frictionless pulley, J-adda kan ni point B, I can say that A is equal to C, and that is equal to 89.62. Ulitak since DJ pulley, dito point B, that is frictionless. Meaning, no anyaman iti tension or anyaman ti force kan ni points iti ayan ti C, isumat lang ti force iti ayan ni A. Kasi di ba rope, lagi pa nyo rope daytoy C, rope mot lang ni B. Okay? No frictionless pulley, the force in the rope does not change. So, A is equal to C, and that is equal to 89.62 newtons. Again, inputting these values in your calculator, solving simultaneously equation 3 and equation 4, you will see in your calculator that P cosine of theta is equal to 48.8 newtons, and P sine theta is equal to 69.01 newtons. So, i-substitute yung iti equation. Diba, balagip yung di lesson tayo, iti lesson 2. Tap na maalam di resultant, and in this case, the resultant ni px kan ni py kat p, that is equal to the square root of px squared plus py squared. So if you're going to input this in your calculator, the value of P now is equal to 84.52 newtons. Now, nangalaak dagiti nga negative values. Nukit-kitaan tayo gamin di direction ni force P to the left downwards. To the left, again, no to the left, that is negative. No downwards, that is also negative. Therefore, the value of P is equal to 84.52 newtons. Take note of the direction of your force P. To determine the direction or yung angle of inclination ng point B or the value iti theta, let's use this one. P cosine theta is equal to negative 48.8. So, usarap nilay. Since amo tayo mo yung value ni P, that is equal to 84.52, i-substitute tayo the value P 84.52. So, since this theta ti kailangan i cosine of P is equal to 48.8 over 84.52. Take note, dito 84.52 nga dito kat iso dito value ti P niya. Then, once nga ag-ala tayo ganun ti angle, disregard, take the absolute value of negative 48.8. The absolute value of negative 48.8 is positive 48.8. So, i-input mo data in the calculator, itirong mo nga value ti theta, 84.73 degrees. Kasano ka naala data 84.73 degrees. That is simply equal to 48.8 divided by 84.52. Then, always take the inverse cosine of your answer, that is equal to 54.73 degrees. Again, this is from the x-axis. Ito po yung sagot, 54.73. The direction ni P and the magnitude of P is equal to 84.52 newtons. And this is the final answer for this problem. Okay? Are we clear on this? For these two illustrative problems. So, ang kayo nga maulaw, ijay kanang ala iti equations. Ulitan tayo, surutan nyo lang the key concepts or the steps na in-present ko the previous slides. And no alala, no ulitak manon no naka-incline DI force, automatic yung adda iti x and y component na DI. Haan kayong ag-assume iti direction the force, no ijipay lang statement obvious mo dun, no ano iti direction na. So, dito yung equilibrium of rigid bodies. Usually, assume tayo lang iti direction na katjay support reactions. Other forces, we are not assuming it, but rather we are analyzing it basing from what is given in the problem. Okay? Try to solve this one. Padasan nyo nga isolve dito nga problem. I'll start kung saan man ako anyaman ti pagpatinggaak ituloy yun. So, in this problem, iko na dito, this is also given in your lesson follow-up work, introduction iti equilibrium. So, dito no problem, dito joist, ti weight na kano kat 20 kilograms. Kat, tapno dito nga joist, it would maintain an inclination of 45 degrees from the horizontal. Dito nga tao, it should apply a pull force. Diba kung natin no pulling force, that is a tensile force or that is under tension. So, kailangan na nga iguyod dito joist at an angle of 25 degrees tapno ma-maintain na di 45 degrees. The length na dito joist kat 4 meters. And I have presented to you that the free body diagram of this problem will look like this one. Now, dito AY kan AX, this is the reaction iti point A. So, since that is a reaction or support reaction, in-assume ko DJ direction na. Kasano ka na amuan nga duwa DJ, AY or EX. No, kasi nga sitwasyon, and it is known that yung support dito is a hinge. Diba kung nantayo no hinge the support, you have two forces, you have two reactions, AY and AX. Again, in-assume ko lang dagiti nga direction. The direction ni weight, this is not assumed, but rather, this is already given. Di ba kung nantayo garud, always no weight ni pagtutungtungan, it acts at the center and the direction is downwards. Since connected tayo, dahi nga tao, iguyod na diay joist, so from that word, you are pulling the joist, that you are applying a tensile force, kaya yung direction ng aking arrow ay away, pointing away from the joist, away. Okay? So, tension bijay. Now, iti ipagpabirok na dito nga problem, what would be the value of this one? Inya ti value ni T. So, i-redrock dito data di 20 kg joist, data di jay tension na in-apply di jay tao, data di weight, kasano ka naala dito 196.2 newtons. Diba weight di pagtutungtungan ijay, that iti weight na-adal tayo, na weight is equal to mass times acceleration due to gravity. So given the mass, that is equal to 20 kilograms multiplied by 9.81 meter per second squared, that is equal to 196.2 newtons. Again, take note newtons, kilogram meter per second squared. So, data J tension, i-apply di tao nga mangigoy-guyod kami CD, that is a rope. Tapos, andito yung AX, andito yung AY. That is 45 degrees, that is 25 degrees. Again, dito yung free body diagram. Ulit-ulit nukunan tayo nga free body diagram, dapat ti makita ijay direction ti forces kanjay force mismo. Then it is also given so no 45 degrees daytoy, kaya't nagarod nga sa uwon applying vertical angles, this is also equal to 45 degrees. So, no 45 degrees daytoy nga angle, 25 degrees daytoy, I can say now that this angle is equal to 20 degrees. Tama? Apay nga kailangan di 20 degrees. I-transfer tayo lang ijay for a clear view. So, ulit kailangan nga isolve, inalak di 20 degrees. Kasi diba naka-incline ni T Since naka-incline ni T, at dati X and Y component na. So, no, at dati X and Y component, the angle of inclination should always be with the horizontal. So, nga inalak di 20 degrees. Diba, di connecta tayo garod, since naka-incline ni T, at da iti X component, at da iti Y component ni T. Apay nga inkabel ko dagita nga TX kan TY na. Diba andon gamin ni T. Now, if I take summation of moments kani point A, apay nga dito yung equation T inalak. JN, the category of equilibrium, this falls under category 4. Ano ti ko na category 4? It is a general condition wherein ada ijay iti concurrent forces, ada ti collinear forces, kan ada ti parallel. Parallel force ni TX kan ni AX, ni AY kan ni TY kan di 196.2. At the same time, this is also a concurrent force kasi no makita yung ni TX kan ni TY, nagsabat da ito nga point. Kastamot lang ni AX kan ni AY nagsabat da ito nga point. So, apay nga summation of moments at point A. Now, no, ag moment nak ditoy nga point, di ba? Dito ni point A, no, ag moment nak ditoy, di ba? Ag zero out ni AX kan ni AY. At dati moment ni TX kan ni TY kan dati 196.2. That's, kitaan tayo din equation. So, GTX, ag moment kan di point A at a certain distance. Dati nga moment arm, that is the distance from this line of action ni Tx hanggang ijay point A. Daytoy jay moment arm ni Tx. Apay nga negative kasi the direction ni moment na counterclockwise. Ni Ty, ag moment ni Ty ijay point A, that the direction is clockwise. Iso nga positive. Again, nukunan tayo nga moment ni Ty, the distance na from line of action of Ty hanggang kan ni point A, again, that is a moment arm. Patimot lang dati 196.2 newtons no ag moment kan ni point A that is clockwise iso nga positive. Again, take note, you have to multiply that to the moment arm and that is equal to 0. Right? Daytoy T equation tayo. If I take summation of moments at point A, that is equal to 0. Kailangan nga ag moment kan ni point A, tapno ag 0 out ni AX kan ni AY, iti unknown ko to na lang dito ni Tx kan ni Ty. This will be my equation 1. And, diba, di step 5 ko na numano ti unknown, dapat isumat lang ti number of equations. So, kailangan pa iti daddo mga equations dito eh. Since talo lang ti available ng equations tayo, anya ulit na gijay, summation of forces along the x-axis and the summation of forces along the y-axis kanya summation of moments. Ito yung nakaagpatingga, iti dating nga problem. I-formulate nyo the equation for the summation of forces along the x-axis, then the summation of forces along the y-axis. Agbalin, adan to yung maala yung talong equations. I-solve you simultaneously the talong equations, masolve you di unknown. Iti nga problem, ulitak, iti unknown dito ikat the value iti. Data ti unknown dito nga problem. Solve you dito nga problem. Again, in Rugik, ito yung nagpatingga, ituloy you, the solution na dito. I need the value of that T. The tension force nga in-apply na dito nga tao, tapno ma-maintain the 45 degrees. Solve this problem. Submit your complete solutions in the Google Classroom. I will be posting in the classwork, and ikabil ko lang i-join ko kaano ti Judith na dito. Okay? Another problem is this one. This is also given in one of your activities. I think idi last Google Meet ko ata ito. In pa-drawing ko kanyayo jay free body diagram na dito. Kasi ti itsura na di free body diagram, ulit-ulit ka, di free body diagram kat ti makitak iti di forces kan di direction ti force. So, mapansin nyo dito, di weight iti cargo, given 736 newtons, dito ni point A. So, again, weight, it is pointing downwards. Apay nga di rope AB, kan ni rope AC, di direction ti arrows ko is away from the point. Again, tension dito AB kan AC. Iti condition na dito nga problem, dapat haan na agtinag diti cargo. Naka-incline iso na ti 50 degrees ni AB, ni AC but naka-incline ti 30 degrees. Now, iti unknown dito nga problem, anya ti value ni AB, anya ti value ni AC. Show me the complete solutions for these two problems. You have to follow the format that you have been using since day 1. Submit your complete solutions on or before the due date I am going to post. Okay? So if you have any questions, paki-message Dr. Latan. I'll try to answer your questions.
Thank you for listening.